It's time for Atomic Monsoon with your hosts, Psycho Andy, Josh, and Jedi Stephanie. And now, it's Atomic Monsoon. Stephanie.
Yes, Andy?
This is it. This is the series finale of Atomic Monsoon.
Dude, what is with series ending in 2020 for me? I can't take another, man. Oh,
Well,
wait.
Fortunately, this is the end of the year, so literally nothing else is going to end on you.
That's fair.
Yeah. I mean, we're recording this maybe a couple days before the end of the year, but still, hopefully...
It's the end of the year.
It's the end of the year. There's a couple days there.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully that's the end of it. Anyways, yeah, this is it.
Yep. This is it.
So before we get into it, we should definitely thank our friends at Def M Records.
We definitely should. And we should not just give like a second or two to them. We should actually thank them properly.
Yes. So very specifically, what happened with our theme song is I reached out to my friend Danny Duoshade, who is a big wig at Def M Records. And I said, hey, listen, I would love to have you guys have somebody from Def M Records do a theme song for my podcast that I'm starting up. And do you think that that's possible? And, there's not going to be a lot of money involved. There's not going to be a lot of anything, but we will play the show and we will thank you guys on every episode. And so hopefully you will get somebody heading over to defmrecords.bandcamp.com. I obviously can't promise anything. And I hate, here's the thing, as an artist, I hate offering to ask people to work for exposure because that is just bullshit. You should pay people money. Unfortunately, when we asked him to do this, I didn't have any extra money. But Dan was cool. He agreed to it. And he wrote the Atomic Monsoon theme song. And he's the one that recorded it. So I thank him. And I don't specifically know who all of the Def M Records All-Stars are. I do know he was the guitar player on it. So Dan, thank you. Thank you very much for our theme song. He's also the guitarist in the Saturn III, which is why... he may or may not be the guitarist in the Saturn III. They may or may not go by code names for that band. But
he to quote a friend of mine who works at Disney, he works with the Saturn III.
He works with the Saturn III. Yes. And speaking of, the Saturn III released a new 3-track EP called Saturnism that just came out this last week, right in time for it was on 12/21 because those guys like playing with numbers. So 1, 2, 2, 1. And it's the Saturn III, right? So there's the two ways you can get a 3 in there. So I have purchased it. It's a pay what you want thing. I figured there were 3 songs. I paid $3. It's the best Saturn III EP so far, in my opinion. So there you go. There is a very specific go to defmrecords.bandcamp.com or go to the Saturn III because it's the 3 Roman numerals. .bandcamp.com. Check out Saturnism. It's if you like the guitar playing at the beginning of the Atomic Monsoon intro, you will probably like this record.
Sweet.
Also, it's only 12 minutes long because it's only 3 tracks. So and Bandcamp lets you listen to it for free before you buy it. So there's no downside here. The worst thing is you're giving up about a quarter of an hour to listen to a song that you may or may not want to purchase. But yeah, man. Dan, thank you so much. Thank you everyone involved at Def M Records for giving us our theme song. Yeah, thank you.
Yes, thank you guys so much. It's a freaking awesome theme song. I love just jamming to it every time I go back and listen to episodes, and and I love that it's adapted over time. We've used different variations of the clips from the music. We've added obviously recently we added the voices over where it's time for Atomic Monsoon with your hosts. I love that we added that later on, and it's just I love that it evolved, but it's still the same theme song and still the same just epic rock and jam. And I still wish I had a ringtone of it. So
yeah, Yeah, I do have the original sound file of it, so I it's actually in my music collection, so it does randomly pop up sometimes when I'm listening to music,
That's
and
awesome.
I always get confused. I'm like, oh, is an episode? Do I have an episode in my music folder? What happened? And then it's like, oh no, it's just the theme song. So yeah, yeah, it's a great song, and it's one of those things where the first time I heard, like, because my instruction was, hey, the show's called Atomic Monsoon, just make something that sounds like a rainstorm, and he kind of did. It sounds
You
like a
really did.
monsoon, you know? So, yeah, yeah, man. I'm all about it. Uh, Next, I want to say thanks to Ryan Treasure, who is the Vice President of Broadcasting Operations at Voice America. Um,
Yes.
when we started Atomic Monsoon, it was Ryan's idea.
Hmm.
Steph, you and me and Josh were hanging out at the lobby and talking about Star Wars.
Hmm.
And Ryan said, hey, this should be a show because we don't have any show that sounds like this on the network right now.
Yeah, I remember that because that was back before I started doing social media and everything with the company.
Oh, yeah.
And you guys had like a question or something regarding Star Wars, and you both came up and you both asked me. And before we knew it, Ryan got in on the conversation. And after a while of talking about it, just up there in the front, it was like, I don't know, like 3, 4 o'clock on like a Thursday, Friday. Like it was one of those afternoons where everything was slowing down and people were getting ready to go home for the weekend.
Right.
And then Ryan was just like, you guys should have a show about this. And the three of us kind of all looked at each other and were just like, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And I was immediately like, well, like I can't do a full Star Wars show.
Well,
Um,
yeah, duh.
which is funny though, because we've mentioned Star Wars on almost every single episode of Atomic Monsoon.
Yeah, yeah.
Which
Look,
is
that's just my life.
it's fine. It's fine because sometimes it was me bringing it up. So uh, I
That's true.
I can't even be mad about it. It sort of became a fun through line throughout this whole series. So
Mhm.
um, but yeah, without Ryan's suggestion of us, sitting around and having nerd talk for an hour once a week,
Mhm.
the show wouldn't exist. So Ryan, thank you.
Yes,
And
thank you so much, Ryan.
yeah, and also thank you for coming on twice. He was on episode 14, the where we talked about upcoming movies for 2019, stuff we wanted to see.
Yep.
And then also he was sort of on our live episode at Phoenix Fan Fusion, which was episode 28, where he was the one recording us live and making sure that that sounded good.
Mhm.
So yeah, Ryan, thank you both for inspiring the show and for coming on and for all of the weird technical help that you've given us over
Mhm.
the last couple of years. Because definitely, especially after COVID hit, there were some days that this show wouldn't have happened without some of his help. So
Yeah, definitely. I thank you so much, Ryan. So,
also for hiring me so that I can have a job so that I can do this. That's pretty cool too. Uh,
yeah,
and, and then I also wrote down the list of all the rest of our guests. Stephanie, do you,
let's do it. Let's
okay,
let's give thanks to each and every single one of them. This is the holiday, this is the season of thanks.
that's right. Yeah, I mean that was like a month ago, but whatever, close enough.
It
Uh,
continues into the holidays, into the Christmas time, Hanukkah time, Kwanzaa time, because you give
yeah,
gifts to people and you thank them for being great people in your
that's true.
life.
That's very true. Okay, so our very first guest was my friend Tom Levine, who was on episode
Mm-hmm.
13 and then came back more recently on episode 77. So he's a two-time Atomic Monsoon All-Star.
Yep.
Um, Val Hochberg came on live at Phoenix Fan Fusion with us, episode 28.
Yep.
Dana Jean Phoenix, the Synthwave siren herself, was on episode 34. Episode 43, Too Many Bumblebees, we had the Arizona Autobots. Ashlyn and Dawn were the representatives from that group that came on to talk about
Mm-hmm.
Transformers cosplay. And speaking of Transformers, the global brand manager for the Transformers trading card game, Drew Nolasco, was on episodes 44, 47, and 57. He is the only three-time guest in Atomic Monsoon history.
Woo! Round of applause.
Yeah. Also, man, like it was super cool to get to talk to one of the people making this game that I was super into, like as it was happening,
Mm-hmm.
and to have him on as sort of like a there were little bits of evolution of the game because he was on our show, and that was cool. And
Mm-hmm.
I know his appearances definitely bumped our listener count. So Drew, thank you. Jeff Pena was on episode 45 to just talk about random Transformer memories.
Mm-hmm.
Blaine Bublitz was on episodes 46 and 51, also to talk about the Transformers trading card game because he was part of the competitive scene in that. Rather,
Mhm.
so like Drew Nolasco was one of the creators, but Blaine was one of the players, and Blaine won a tournament, so he got placed into the world championships and then did pretty well there. So those episodes are, I think they're interesting if you're listen, if you want to hear what it's like to be a competitive trading card game player. Those are pretty neat.
Mhm.
My old manager Julian Moraga from Samurai Comics came on episode 53, and we just had a nice talk about what it's like to work in a comic store.
Mhm.
Voice America audio engineer Andrew Tonin came on episode 60, and that's the only one, Stephanie, that doesn't have either you or I on it.
Yep.
And that was Josh and Andrew talked about horror movies. Episode 61 with Gina Ippolito was the last episode before COVID took over the world.
Yeah, it was.
And so it was super fun to get to talk to her about her trip from small town New Jersey to Hollywood, and how that evolution has gone for her. Fun story. I spoke with Josh this past week, and he finally returned my copy of Gina's graphic novel Babe Squad that I let him borrow in preparation for that episode.
Oh my god.
Yeah, he's had it for the last 6 months because COVID took over, and
Yeah.
I wasn't in the office. So let's see, episode 74, Megan and Kristen, the sisters that don't do anything, came on, which was a week that you were unable to join us, Stephanie.
Yes.
I had them on, and then Megan came back for episode 76 to talk about the cartoon All Stars to the rescue.
That was great.
Yeah, those I really enjoyed both of those episodes. Both of those sisters are fantastic people.
They're very cool. I've been watching their stuff on YouTube.
Oh, cool. Yeah. My buddy Dana Shobe on episode 78, where we just talked about theater and acting.
Yep.
I really enjoyed having him on. Dana's got a great voice.
He really does.
Yeah, and that was one where, man, like I have a little bit of experience in theater, but like I wanted to do the episode, but I knew that if it was you and me, we weren't going to fill out the full hour.
Yeah.
So I was like, "Hey, Dana, you're a big time actor in where you're from. You should come on and be part of the show." And he was, and that's a really fun episode too.
Mhm.
The next episode, 79, Craig Skitz, formerly Stuttering Craig of ScrewAttack.com and Game Attack. That was one of the ones that I got to do by myself and was maybe the most nervous for going in, because I didn't have like the most nervous was Dana Jean Phoenix, because she was the one that was like, "Oh, I don't know her except for her music," but at least I had Josh to fall back on. Stuttering Craig was, I've been a fan of this guy since like 2007, and like his bizarre, unique style of internet comedy, and I didn't have anyone to fall back on, so it was all me.
Mhm.
But I think that episode turned out pretty well, and that's the one where I started doing, because I did the parody intro of his old podcast Side Scrollers, and so that's where all the sound clips, the it's time for Atomic Monsoon, because
Yeah.
that's how his show used to start. And after that episode, I was like, that's kind of fun. What if we just kept doing that? So yeah. Episode 85, my cousin Alex George Pickering came on and talked about making movies, and he had just signed the contract for his movie Crate to get made.
Mhm.
And since then, he's won a couple of script competitions to get some other films he's written recognized. I don't think anything else has been signed for yet. Like nothing else has been
Mhm.
purchased yet, but hey man, he's out there, kicking ass and getting recognition for it. So
Yeah.
let's see, episode 88, we have my friend Megan O'Connell from Dirty Teacup Designs on.
Mhm.
And that was a fun, little more laid back conversation than we usually have with guests.
Mhm.
Episode 90 and 96, we had Connor Hins. Who's that? I don't remember him.
Oh, you mean my husband?
Oh, right.
The all mythical Connor that we had referenced for so many episodes. That was my husband. And then one day we're like, you know what? No, we need to get him on to talk Star Trek Next Generation.
Mm-hmm.
And then he came back to also talk about Syndicate Saber United. So
Yeah.
it worked out.
There may have been almost as many references to Connor as there were to Star Wars throughout the course of the show, actually.
Again, not intentional.
Right. No, and it was just oh, hey, my husband. Oh, hey, or even earlier on, hey, my fiance. Hey, my boyfriend. Right. And then
Oh yeah, that's right.
because you guys got married. You got married during the run of Atomic Monsoon.
Yeah, no, he actually asked me, because we were driving the other day, and I was listening to Atomic Monsoon on my phone at the time, and he was listening with me. We were listening together in the car.
Sure.
And he asked, how long have you guys been doing this? And I said, oh, well, we started in like August of 2018. And he's like, wait, I thought you guys started like in 2019. And I said, no, we've been doing this for longer than you and I have been married. And he's like, that, wow, that's weird. And I said, you think?
Yeah. Yeah. So that's pretty fun.
Hmm.
Yeah, and Connor was fun to have on. I like Connor a lot, so
Hmm.
it was cool to get him to be part of the show as well.
Yeah.
Episode 97, my buddy Robert Clark Chan from Knowing Is Half the Podcast and AE Doubleback Show came on, and we talked about pro wrestling because you were busy at another wedding.
Yeah.
So that was cool because I have been a fan of professional wrestling since 1993, and I know you're just not into it. So I'm not going to make you sit through an episode of something you don't know anything about. So
Yeah.
um, yeah,
Fair.
timing on that worked out well. And then episode 98, 2 episodes ago, Race to Canis, also from Knowing Is Half the Podcast, and the Who Would Win show. He came on and we talked about cartoons.
Hmm.
And last week, Brandon Mayo, my co-creator, partner in crime, whatever, of Hawk and Croc was on.
Yep.
Man, I don't know what happened with the recording of that episode, Steph, but those,
Dude.
those time delays. So, okay, listeners, here's what happened. I've been experimenting with some other ways to record podcasts because
Hmm.
now that Atomic Monsoon is ending, I'm going to start another podcast called Other Strangeness. And while the world is still in quarantine and COVID lockdown, I can't just have people into the studio. I can't have people call into the Voice America studios. Like, I got to figure out how to do it here. So we tried a new platform, and for whatever reason, it put a weird time delay in the recording. So I spent close to 7 hours editing that episode so that it sounded like a regular conversation.
Yeah, like I have to give you like a round of applause, Andy, because I mean I've taken a sound design class. I've edited sound myself before for like
Mhm,
films and stuff like that. I used to do in college and high school. It is not an easy thing to do, and it is very time consuming.
mhm.
So I got to give you a round of applause for just like learning to do that because I listened to that episode before this and I was like, wow, that sounds a lot better than when at first.
Oh, the actual recording is unlistenable. Like I was almost afraid that we were going to have to redo the entire thing, or
Oh
that
my
we were
God.
just going to have to scrap it and make another episode 99. Like, it was really close to being that bad. And yeah, fortunately, the thing we were using it recorded each of us individually, and so because of that, I was able to go in and clip all of our voice bits together to make it sound
Hmm.
like a real conversation. So
Yeah, and what's weird
yeah,
is that we used the same recording software like literally the week before
yeah, with
with Race
Ray.
Anus, and it
And
worked just fine.
yeah, yeah. So I looked into that. Apparently, it's one of those things that just sometimes with some over the internet recording software, it just happens.
Oh.
For whatever reason, someone's connection or everyone's connection hits at slightly different times, and it's just things can get a little mixed up like that.
Hmm.
So fortunately, I have been editing our episodes since somewhere around episode 75. I took over doing that. So I had experience pulling out ums and uhs and shifting things a little bit to make things sound and flow a little bit better.
Hmm.
And yeah, fortunately, all of the experience that I've had doing that the last 6 months or so kind of culminated in last week's episode. So
It was the real test.
yeah. Yeah. So yeah, that's 20 guests on like 25 episodes because of all the repeat ones, which is about a
Hmm.
quarter of our show. So that's pretty
Yeah,
neat.
that is really, really, really neat.
Yeah. I got some messages. So we did ask for listener feedback. I only got a couple of quick messages from some friends personally, and then I got like an actual extended one from my mom. Because my mom's great and she supports everything that I try to, like, all the creative stuff that I try to do. And so she has listened to every single episode, even if she doesn't know what the hell we're talking about.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So shout out to Andy's mom, guys.
Yeah, yeah. So real quick, I just want to give the brief thanks to my friends Karina, Drew Carlson, who we mentioned on some of the Transformers CCG episodes, my buddy TJ, my friend Baracho, Deep Fry, Sergeant Hughes, Laura, and then my buddy Steven, who was the one that suggested we do the Marvel swimsuit issue way back.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah. Yeah, so Steve was cool and was like, you should talk about these. And it was like, well, I happen to have one, so we can. So to all of you who I know have listened and have personally reached out to me and said that you liked the show and you enjoyed listening and stuff, like, thank you. I thank you for your thanks. Thank you for listening.
Hmm.
And then my mom's letter. I'm just gonna read this, I guess.
Go ahead.
Uh,
We're ready. I'm ready over here, man. Let's do it.
okay. So she just says, I have listened to every episode of Atomic Monsoon. It brought back lots of memories of my sons growing up, whether it was about toys, movies, TV shows, comics, video games, or whatever topic came up. I made a short list of my favorites. Comic related shows were big for me due to having owned a comic book store, but my favorites were the Phoenix Comic Con shows, episodes 27, 28, and 29. She especially loved the live commentary at the convention. She also said, I also very much enjoyed episode 21 called Shadow Justice. Secondly, I really loved some of the episodes with guests, especially the folks I personally know, like Tom Levine and Julian from Samurai Comics. But her absolute favorite was the episode with Alex Pickering, because she's known Alex since he was born, because we're, Alex and I are less than 2 months apart in age. So,
Yeah.
and she's all in all, though, she's really enjoyed the banter between Andy and Stephanie, and earlier with Josh as well. Always a lot of fun, even when I wasn't super interested in the content. I always loved it when Andy talked about his mom or dad. It's been a great run, and I am grateful. And then I saw her for Christmas, and she actually told me that even though the one with Alex was her favorite, now it's the Hawk and Croc episode with Brandon, because, like I said, my mom supports all the creative stuff that I do, and so she has read every Hawk and Croc everything multiple times.
Wow.
So for her to get to hear a lot of the behind the scenes stuff that she's never heard before, she said was really cool. So yeah. And then when I explained to her what happened with the recording of that, she was like, wait, what? And she told me she would have had no idea about how bad that episode had gotten recorded. So yeah. So good times.
Wow. Well, thank you. Thank you so much. That's a really nice thing to say. Like, I really, that makes me feel like all warm and fuzzy inside. Like, I just like love when people are very kind and sweet about, compliments and, things like that. But also, I mean, it's obvious she's been here since the beginning. She's been
Yeah.
a fan since the beginning. She's obviously always been a fan of you. I mean, because you're her son.
Right. Yeah.
But it's great that she's enjoyed the show and everything like that. So shout out to you, Andy's mom. You're awesome. Sending loves and hugs, and stay safe during this crazy time.
Yeah. Thanks, Mom. And then real quick, we had 3 people who had actually sent in questions. So when we had Transformers trading card game global brand manager Nolasco on, the last time we had him on, we were planning to have him back, and then the game got canceled. So previous to when we were going to have him back, we had a few people who wrote in questions that unfortunately have never been answered. Although the questions were all, are you going to do this in the future? And the answer is no, because the game doesn't exist anymore. So real quick, at BoSoxFan73, Brandon Jufrey 1, and Scarlet Squadron on Twitter. Hey guys, thanks for taking the time to write in, even though I apologize that your questions never got answered. So yeah. Those were all my thank yous that I had written down.
I mean, I want to give a big thank you to a couple people on my side. Obviously, thank you to my husband and my husband Connor for just being a big support through us doing Atomic Monsoon. He told me when we were listening the other day that he felt bad that he hasn't listened to every episode, but he can't exactly listen when he's trying to teach kids how to fly a plane. I mean,
that's fair.
But yeah, but the thing is though that he very much he was glad that I was doing something like this, and he always thought it was kind of a neat and cool idea, and so he's definitely been very supportive of us in Atomic Monsoon from the get-go. Also, thanks to some of my friends from Saber. Brian Seeley, I know he listens to a lot of episodes.
Yeah.
And everything ever since I think the con episode where I think I don't know if I dragged him or if it was just more of like, hey, you should come listen to my nerdy podcast live. And they're like, okay, Steph, let's go. And so he came and listened. I think my friend Killian listens as well. And and honestly, any of my Saber nerds or friends, if you are listening to episode 100, or have listened to more than just episode 100 and have been listening for a while and like, Stephanie, you didn't say my name. I am so sorry. Please send me a message and tell me how angry you are at me, and we'll lightsaber duel later.
Yeah. I remember, was it Brian and Eric were the 2 that showed up to the live convention? Yeah.
Brian and Eric were the 2 that showed up. I think a few others were going to show up. I think it was just because we were doing it like 10 a.m. on like the Thursday of con, and people still had work, or people were still trying to get to the convention. I know one of our friends who I've mentioned before in the show, who was supposed to be on during the Syndicate episode but couldn't because of other reasons. Tyler, he was actually supposed to be there at that live recording that day, but he had to make sure our booth at the Star Wars neighborhood was set up and ready to go,
Oh,
and make sure that
sure.
they were
Yeah.
ready to go. And so it was like, no, 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 you go deal with that, Tyler. We got this. So
Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
Also, yeah, I didn't think to write this down, but thank you to the people that showed up to our live panel. Uh,
yeah.
I mean, there weren't a ton of people there, but it was noon on Thursday, which is like like, listen, I'm it's not that I'm ungrateful. We got the panel kind of last minute. Like, we got the opportunity to do it, and it is one of my favorite episodes that we've done. But also noon on Thursday, like the first hour of programming at a convention,
Hmm.
kind of like the worst spot to be in.
Oh God, yeah.
In terms of attendance, fortunately we recorded it. We knew, like, oh, okay, noon on Thursday. We are not going to expect a packed house for this. Um,
Yeah.
Also we're relatively at the time new podcast. Like, not a lot of people had heard about us, so like it's not like we were going to be drawing in a full room anyways.
Hmm.
But no, to everyone who was there, thank you, especially to those of you who have kept listening through the last 70 something episodes since then.
Yeah, and which that reminds me, I do need to give a big thank you to Mac, who's our contact with Phoenix Fan Fusion, because
Mm-hmm.
it was through him that we were able to do the show live. I think obviously it was through him that we got in contact with somebody else that was able to let us do the panel. But still, a big thank you to you, Mac. I don't think he listens to the show, and if he does, that's awesome for one thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, he has been a big supporter of obviously our Saber group and everything like that. And he's helped us with connections for pretty much since we've first done con. And yeah, so he was, because we were already in contact with him for Fan Fusion that year for like syndicate shows. We went ahead and I just was like, I'm gonna pull the trigger. I'm gonna ask him about Atomic Monsoon, and because he's just so awesome and he was able to get us connected with the right people, we were able to do the panel. And I turned around and I remember I turned around to you guys and I was like, hey guys, so who wants to do a panel at con? And you're like, wait, did it actually happen? Like, yeah, who wants to do a panel at con? I think
Yeah.
even Ryan was like, wow, okay.
Yeah, yeah. We figured, okay, if we can pull it off, great. But I
Hmm.
I honestly didn't think it was going to happen because it was so close at that. We were just a few weeks out at that point, and
Yeah.
yeah. So and the
Hmm.
fact that we were able to thank Stephanie, thank you for making that happen. That was great. Thank you, Mac, for getting us in touch with the right people and everything. That's
Yeah.
awesome. I
Hmm.
really appreciate that. I definitely want to do that more. I was really looking forward to doing that this year, and then
Yeah.
COVID just said no. So
Yeah, it really did. That was just kind
yeah,
of its whole mood this year.
and it's I mean, it is what it is. Like, I'm not
Hmm.
going to say it's fine. Like, obviously this is terrible, and I don't I
Yeah.
if you could ask me, hey, do you want to go through this again? Do you want the world to go through this again? Like, no, of course not. But like, it is what it is. And to take a silver lining out of this dark cloud, like, because of that, we had to kind of figure out how to do the show on our own.
Hmm.
And so because of that, like, I had to learn how to edit. I had to learn how to and at the very least, I just had to learn how to stick the music at the beginning of the show.
Yeah.
And so I figured, well, while I'm in here, let me see if I can figure out how to clip out some of these ums and pauses that we do. And I did. And I mean, I have this other skill that I didn't go to school for. I didn't get paid for. Like, I'm using Adobe Audition to do it. And I'm sure there's a lot of things in there that I don't know how to do. And I'm sure there's ways to do it better. But,
Hmm.
without the pandemic, I would have never learned this extra skill. Um,
Yeah.
Thank you, Stephanie, for making yourself as available as you have the last, several months.
I
Uh,
mean, when you're teaching virtually and having summer break in there as well, it makes it a little easier.
for sure, for sure. But also, like, man, this show would have been dead in the water. Like, we would have done 61
Hmm.
episodes and that would have been it.
Yeah.
So honestly, like, truly, thank you for stepping up, and thank you, Josh, for agreeing to do this and for being, for being the guy that used to edit things together, stick the music in, upload it, and everything. Unfortunately, the pandemic has just kind of, like, Josh's life changed a lot because
Hmm.
all of the shows that used to come in and record live at Voice America all suddenly had to do it virtually. And
Yeah.
so as a result, like, the engineers at Voice America are, they're working all the time now. And
Hmm. They're just very, very busy
they're very
making sure
busy.
that the rest of the network is running as well.
Right, right. And so, that's why unfortunately Josh hasn't been able to join us, is because, he's working in radio all day, and can't, like, during the day he's working and can't join us, and then at night, like, the last thing he wants to do is look at more radio stuff.
Mhm.
And I completely understand. And in addition, he's been, his family is all older, and all have whatever situations they have, so he's been going out and doing shopping and taking care of them.
Mhm.
So that, he's really stepped up and been a good responsible adult. So
Yeah.
yeah. And then but we were able to talk to Josh and get him to record a little something, so we're going to stick that in right here.
Hey guys, I had a blast doing a talk with Monsoon. We had some amazing discussions, did some amazing interviews, and just really had a great time discussing everything that is pop culture. And I got to say, man, the highlight was definitely finding some of the new fandoms that I enjoy now, with such as the Transformers trading card game, rest in peace, and a few other little fandoms here and there that I was introduced to through the experience here of Atomic Monsoon. And I just got to end it off on saying one thing, just a definitive statement of Die Hard is a Christmas movie.
Thank you, Josh, for those words and everything. And we miss you on the show, obviously. And
Yeah.
because, I mean, in the beginning, it was the three of us talking about various different nerdy topics because we came from so many different walks of life. We had all different varying knowledge of nerd stuff. Like, if we could, obviously Andy could have spent forever and always talking Transformers, talking pro wrestling, talking comics and everything that he's grown up with. And, Josh could have done the same with that and like the old Star Wars universe and canon, and then I could talk Star Wars and Disney and band. And like, I never did a marching band episode where I wanted to like explain to the world how marching band and color guard and drum corps and winter guard all work. But I mean,
Yeah.
for another show
Yeah.
at this point.
No,
But
and there's
so
yeah, there's definitely some stuff that I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
no, you're good. It's honestly just it was just honestly the fact that we all the fact that we could all find common ground for 100 episodes is awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, and there's definitely things that I would love to get more in depth into, and more things I would love to talk about. But like, there's like you said, we come from very different walks of life. I mean, there's a huge age gap between you and I, less so between me and Josh, but like, so as a result, like, we just have different cultural touchstones, especially in the realm of nerdy pop culture stuff. So like, I think we did a really good job of hitting all of the things that we have in common. And actually, a couple of my favorite things that we did was the Strangers in Paradise and City of Bones and the Phineas and Ferb episodes and the Steven Universe one, where like, you and I kind of were like, hey, I like this thing. What if you experience this thing that I like, and we'll see how, we'll try and do an episode about that.
Yeah.
And I know at least one of our listeners went out and read City of Bones as a result of that episode. So
yes, I remember you telling me that, and I was like, wow, awesome.
yeah. Hey, listen, we got someone else to try a thing that you like, right?
Yeah,
So,
exactly. But it was, I mean, it's also we got someone to read a book, like a physical novel.
Yeah, in 2020. In 2020, at least 2 more people read a novel that they would not have read because of this show.
Yes.
Yeah, one of them is me, but still.
Yeah. So
yeah.
So Andy, speaking of favorite episodes, I
Mhm.
mean, there's obviously 100 that we've done, this being 100, but what was some of your favorite episode? I mean, you just said the ones where we introduce new things to each other and we got to talk
Yeah.
about the new things.
Mhm,
But were there any other episodes that you have to say, was one of your favorites to record or go back and listen to or whatever?
Yeah. So the experience of doing a live podcast, like recording live at Comic-Con or
Yeah.
Phoenix Fan Fusion, that was the first panel I'd ever done. It was the first time I'd ever been on stage at a panel for a convention. So like, okay, I have to bring my A game. I have to I had to step up. I don't know that it's our best episode, but the experience of getting to do it live was a cool rush. So I really enjoyed that one. I really like the episode you and I did where we ran down the entire MCU in an hour.
I love that episode.
Yeah. And that one was even better with, hey, I'm going to talk about this stuff and how it compares to the comics. And you had already seen Avengers Endgame and I hadn't yet. And you did such a good job of not spoiling anything, even though I accidentally talked about a bunch of things that happened in Endgame.
Because the thing is, though, it's like they weren't even. I mean, even though they were spoilers to Endgame, they were not spoilers to the other movies or comics because you've
Mhm.
already seen them. You already saw it happen.
Right.
So yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and that was just one of those weird coincidences where like, oh yeah, remember in Age of Ultron when Cap moves Mjolnir and it doesn't actually lift it up, and I mentioned, oh yeah, he can pick it up and wield it in the comics, and then he did.
In the movie.
And I swear, the scene where the camera pulls back and it's Cap holding the hammer, I thought, son of a bitch, Stephanie didn't tell me. That's amazing.
I mean,
Like,
we referenced that. We referenced the elevator fight scene from Winter Soldier.
mhm,
We referenced certain moments and elements from the first Avengers movie that were in there.
that's right. That's right.
We referenced Gamora's sacrifice in Infinity War, but also the return of Red Skull. And I'm sitting there like, oh, we go back. Like,
Yeah,
like there was
there-
so much that we referenced. And I was sitting on my hands the entire time trying to keep a complete stone face of like, and just because that was when we were still doing recording in the studio.
uh-huh. We were, yeah,
Stone
face to
face in
face.
front of you.
Yeah, yeah. Man, that episode is way funnier in hindsight of
Uh-huh.
like Andy hasn't seen this movie yet, Stephanie has, and we're going to talk about all of the other ones and all of the things. And then it turned out Marvel referenced all the things we talked about in that finale. It was like,
Mhm.
oh, okay, great.
Which is really funny because I still remember because that weekend I was at a oddly enough another thing for a wedding. I have a lot of friends who are getting married and having kids, and
I
meanwhile I'm
mean,
over here with a
yeah, it's
green Challenger.
mid 20s. That's about,
Yeah,
that's when a lot of people are getting married. So that's fine.
yeah. But I just remember I was at a bridal shower and we just finished up. We were just finishing with like a couple of photos that people wanted to take and we were about to get in the cars and I remember we had just finished up. We were like loading up the cars and suddenly my phone buzzes. And I look down and it's a message from you. And I know we're a family-friendly show, but
Uh-huh.
I have to tell the audience what you said. With like 1,001 U's and C's,
Uh-huh.
you typed fuck. And I lost it. I completely lost it. I was laughing my face off. I thought it was the funniest thing ever. And the bride to be like looked over at me and she's like, "What's so funny?" And I said, and I told her like a little bit of a brief synopsis, like, you know how we saw Endgame on Thursday? She's like, yeah. Well, on Friday I recorded an episode of Atomic Monsoon with my co-host who hasn't seen it yet, and we were talking Marvel stuff.
Uh-huh.
And he just saw the movie, and I showed her the message, and she thought it was hilarious too. And it was just so funny, your reaction, because then I came in Monday, and I just had like this big cheeky smile of just like, so, what'd you think?
Uh, yeah. Yeah.
Oh god, that's why that episode is my favorite.
Oh, it's yeah, and it's there's so many cool, weird, like behind the scenes
Hmm.
things. Yeah, I mean, that one's the best example. That one's the
Yeah.
best. So I failed. I haven't been able to listen to all 100 Atomic Monsoons in the last couple weeks.
Hmm.
I did listen to a lot of them though, and I do want to say that I also I don't know that there's a specific one, but there was something really cool about when we got you and me and Josh all in the studio together.
Yeah.
There was a whole different level of energy. There was a whole different
Hmm.
everything in that, and I don't like when it was me and Josh, it was the show. The show had like three iterations really. Like there was the three of us, and then there was a period where it was just me and Josh, and then there was a period where it was me and you. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, and each version has its own energy and its own feel, and
Hmm.
I don't think that any of them are necessarily better or worse. But they're the three of us definitely had like the three of us in the studio, like all looking at each other's faces. Like there was a lot more laughter in those episodes.
There
Um,
really were.
yeah, yeah, and I think that's really cool. And I wasn't necessarily a big fan of going through like, hey, here's a bunch of upcoming stuff that you guys might be interested in, so keep a look at. Like it felt like we were just being the front page of any nerd website, right?
Hmm.
And so like the content of that, I like I'm glad we got away from that and started doing slightly more in-depth looks at stuff that we actually enjoyed. But yeah, the feel and the energy of those early episodes, going back and listening to them again, like, man, this was actually a lot better than I remember it being.
Mhm.
Yeah, that was a lot. That was pretty cool.
Yeah. I still love that Marvel episode. I still
Hmm.
go back and listen to it every once in a while, but um I think it actually out of all the episodes I have listened to, which I've listened to almost every single one, not in the past couple of weeks, but just like I've taken a chance to sit down and when
Yeah.
I have time and I've listened to it. I know there were times last year, well, and when I mean last year, I mean like last school year before everything shut down. There were times where I was in my classroom before the students would show up or working on something, preparing for something for the kids, and I would be either cleaning my classroom, putting it up on the whiteboard, whatever it was, eating my lunch, and I would have Atomic Monsoon playing from my computer at work, just
Hmm.
listening to it and listening to us riff or you guys riff or wherever it was that we were
Hmm.
at the time. And yeah, no, there it's I have to agree, when we were in studio, it hit a little bit differently than us being in our our houses or in our for me a closet, just because
Yeah.
the clothes do a really good job of just mute of kind of muffling the sound a little bit,
Yeah.
but it definitely hit a little bit differently. And I mean, for our listeners at home, to give you an idea, the last time I saw Andy in person was before Gina Ippolito. Is that
Yeah.
right?
Episode 6.
Was
Yeah.
before
Yeah.
we had
God.
just done
Yeah.
the Clone Wars episode, which is also one of my favorites. I mean, obviously because I love Clone Wars, but also because it's one of the few episodes we've done where I knew a lot going in, and I was
Right.
able to teach in like a way, like I was able to teach you guys something new. And I think because Clone Wars season 7 had just started, like that day I hadn't watched it yet, and it was just so much fun to like talk about this amazing series that had been on for so long ago and was finally coming back and the whole 9 yards. But that was the last episode I did with you guys. I saw your faces, I saw the people at Voice America
Man.
before this whole pandemic hit. So even though I think we all went into quarantine the second, third week of March,
Right.
that was February
Yeah,
when we
I'm
did that.
looking. That episode aired. We put that episode up February 23rd. I didn't realize I haven't seen your face since then.
It's been almost 11 months since I've seen you, Andy.
Wow.
Like,
Wow.
for our listeners, like they probably thought like, oh, maybe they've run into each other at Starbucks or something. Like, no, it's been
No,
11 months,
I
guys.
haven't. I like, other than a couple of trips to the comic store, and otherwise I haven't left the house except to go grocery shopping or walk the dog.
Hmm.
Like, I have been staying here trying to keep myself and my roommates as safe as possible this
Yeah.
entire time. I might be overdoing it,
Hmm.
there are certainly a lot of people who would say that I'm probably overdoing it.
Hmm.
But I'm erring on the side of caution.
Yeah.
There's an old saying: if you under prepare, you'll always regret it, and if you over prepare, you'll never know.
Yeah.
And I'd rather never know that I over prepared. So,
Hmm. Yeah.
um, yeah, and I know you've had to work in this, like, you've been in and out of the school because of the way
Hmm.
that the districts are running back and forth with, oh, we're gonna go back in school classes, like in-person classes, oh, back online, whatever.
Hmm.
And that can't be easy. So
No, it really isn't. And plus, I mean, even through Atomic Monsoon, I changed jobs, halfway through last year.
yeah,
I was at Voice America. I was with you guys, when it was easy to clock out and just to walk the 2 feet to the studio and
right.
record. And then I ended up getting this teaching position, which has been huge for me. And I mean, like, even if you look at last year's, list of episodes, there were a series of episodes where I could not be there because every afternoon for the entire month of October, I was in tech rehearsals. We were building after school every single day. We were
Hmm.
preparing for our first show, at least, or not our first show, my first show with the school.
Yeah,
And then obviously we had the show itself. So I wasn't able to come back till almost November.
yeah,
And obviously I haven't done a show since. And it's a little sad because I mean,
yeah,
my first full year of teaching there was hit by COVID, and then we never got to do our spring play.
yeah.
The fall play got canceled, and so we're fingers crossed hoping we get this next spring one, at least in some capacity, even if it's not the show we were originally planning, just something
Hmm.
for these
Hmm.
kids. So
Yeah, yeah, man.
yeah.
I mean, as much as the show has had three iterations, like that, the third iteration where it's you and me recording from home, like it's
Mhm.
a very different show because the world changed around us, and
Yeah.
we have done the best we can to make it work, but
Hmm.
yeah, it what are you gonna do?
Hmm.
Just try and give people a little bit of entertainment, a little bit of an escape, and I'm proud that we never never got into any of
Mhm.
the political discourse from this year.
Yeah.
Um, I'm pretty sure you and I tend to agree on things, but and I'm pretty sure that if you were really paying attention, you can figure out where we stand on stuff. But I very specifically never wanted to tell anyone how to think or what to feel about anything.
Yeah.
That's your business,
Yeah.
and we can respectfully disagree and still get along.
Yeah, and we've made reference in several episodes where it's like these are our opinions. These are not
Right.
opinions we want you guys to follow or understand. This is like, no, this is where we stand on this.
Hmm.
And we know, like, we're not going to agree with everything everybody says. And we always try to stay as upbeat as possible. We always try to
Hmm. Hmm.
keep a positive. I know there were a few instances where we did have to bring the mood down a little bit, especially after the passing of Stan Lee and a few other
Right.
big names, but
Right.
I mean, we've this entire time, it's just we just want to have fun. We want to talk about nerdy shit,
Yeah.
and we just like we want to have a good laugh, and
Yeah.
that's pretty much what we've done with this show. And we hope that you guys have had fun with us and have had a good laugh as well. Even on the episodes where I'm pretty sure whether it's you, Andy, or whether it's me, or whether it's both of us, where we're both like running off of like 10% brain energy of like we don't know what's happening. We're pretty sure we just said like for the thousandth time in the past second.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
So
Yeah. Yeah. Fortunately, there we go again. Fortunately, I've gotten pretty good at editing some of those out. So
Yeah.
there,
So, yeah.
there are fewer of them as you go on and listen through. But yeah,
Mhm.
it's I didn't realize how much I sounded like Jeff Goldblum until I had to edit myself.
I mean, that's not a bad person to sound like, to be honest.
No, no, it's true. It's true. Speaking of, there I go again. Speaking of having a little bit of a break and getting an hour a week and everything, Atomic Monsoon is ending, but as I've made reference to before, I am going to continue doing another show.
Mhm.
And this show is called Other Strangeness. And if everything has gone according to plan, I recorded the first episode yesterday. If everything goes according to plan, you should be able to go find that right now. If you go to your podcatcher of choice, if you go to voiceamerica.com and look for Other Strangeness, that's OTHERSTRANGENESS. With
Mhm.
Psycho Andy, there should be I haven't recorded this part yet, but there should be like a little 5-minute intro for anyone who doesn't know me from Atomic Monsoon, as well as kind of a little guide. I didn't want to take up any time with one of the episodes. I want to get right to talking to guests on those, but there should be like a short little like, hey, this is me, this is the show, this is what it's about, this is what I'm planning on doing, and then hopefully a first episode will be up as well. So
Mhm.
I am planning on getting a new guest, a new friend who creates stuff every week, and we're going to talk about the stuff that they make and the stuff that inspired them and influences and that sort of thing. So yeah, Other Strangeness, and then the social media for that is only going to be Strangeness Talk on Twitter, because it turns out Other Strangeness is one character too many for Twitter's naming scheme.
Mhm.
So yeah, Strangeness Talk, STRANGENESSTALK, and then Other Strangeness at gmail.com will be the email address for that. And
Okay.
otherwise that's it. That's going to be it for the social media on that. So that's what I'm going to be up to next. Steph,
Mhm.
I presume you're going to continue teaching.
Well, yes, I'm gonna continue teaching. Obviously, once the break is over, we'll be
Sure.
back. Well, not in person. We're doing 2 weeks of quarantining before we get back to person.
Fair enough.
But yeah, no, I'll be getting back to teaching and everything, and I'll have to find out what the heck to do with my Fridays, dude. Because I just like I've been doing this for 2 years, so I'm like I don't know what I'm gonna do.
Yeah, yeah.
No, I do have plans for well ideas, plans. Not
Uh-huh.
really a whole lot, but I'm in the works of potentially putting together a show of my own as well. It's gonna be a bit different than this. Obviously, it's gonna be a bit different than what you're doing because you're obviously interviewing guests and talking about all these really cool things that they do, and
Yeah.
mine's gonna be breaking down things I like, whether by the episode, by the arc, by the novel, by the whatever,
Hmm. Hmm.
and just talking about it and how awesome it is, or how maybe we're not a fan of like me and whoever is with me is not a fan of it, but it's still quality television or movies or whatever. Like so, there's definitely something in the works that I want to put together. I'm also going to be doing something with my friends at Mischief and Madness
Oh, cool.
that I've mentioned before on this show, which
Hmm.
guys still go check them out. They're still on Twitch, but we're going to be doing something kind of more for the YouTube side which is going to be a lot of fun. We just got to get a few things put together and approved. Hopefully, if it works out and everything, we'll be doing that with my husband Connor and my buddy Tyler. Potentially, maybe fingers crossed for us. But there's definitely things in the works. Just Andy's further ahead than I am.
Yeah. I mean, as soon as we kind of decided to end Atomic Monsoon, which was a lot earlier than we told you guys, but we thought, we should do 100 episodes. I was immediately like, okay, what am I going to do after that? And, how quickly do I want to, because I thought about taking a couple weeks off, and then I thought, you know what? No, I want to bring as much of the Atomic Monsoon audience over. So,
there you go.
Like I said, man, it should be ready to go. Again, we're recording this a couple days ahead of time, so we'll see. I have one definitely recorded. I have another one I'm going to record this week, hopefully, again, assuming everything goes according to plan. And then I've got a few more people who are interested, ready to go through January. So, and then, it's also one of those things where, like, it's harder to tell someone, like, hey, do you want to do my show that doesn't exist yet? So once it's there and once I got a few episodes out, I think that'll help a lot.
Yeah.
Anyways.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm excited to listen, Andy. You definitely have a listener in me for that show. So
thank you. Yeah. And once you guys get your stuff up and going, once you get your new show going, once you're doing stuff with Mischief Madness, I would love to have you on too, and have a mini Atomic Monsoon reunion, and
that'd be great.
Maybe pull out some old theme music. Yeah. And keep tabs with what you guys are up to.
Yeah, definitely. Obviously, just so the audience knows, it's not like, I'm pretty sure, Andy, you and I will try and keep in contact as often as we can, even if we're off doing our separate things now. And I definitely know once things calm down a little bit, dude, we got to go back out into the world and, grab some lunch sometime.
Oh, yeah. No question.
Yeah.
Once
just like the old days,
mm-hmm. Once we're both vaccinated, definitely we got to go get, I don't know, some Wendy's and have them spell your name wrong on the overhead board, or which is weird because Stephanie's a super common name. Like, I don't know how.
It's such a common name. But...
I don't know if we've ever talked about this on the show. Guys, you got to understand, Stephanie and I, when we worked together, we were in cubicles right next to each other. So we went out to lunch together almost every day for solid year and a half.
Yep.
And we would go to Wendy's pretty regularly, like at least once every 2 weeks.
Yeah.
If not once a week. And the number of times that the workers at Wendy's, and listen, I don't know who these people are. I don't know their background. I am not trying to disparage them personally. It's just really funny to me that I have seen every possible variation of the spelling of the word Stephanie, including ones where like letters are missing. Like my favorite one, the one that was like, it was Stephanie because they forgot the H. There was one that was like Stephanie with Nnye. Like, it was just, there were just so many weird misspellings of your name.
There was one where they like just put the STE and then the rest of it was spelt like the name Tiffany. And I was like, what? Like, why?
2 F's and an A. Yeah.
It was like, why? Like, so guys, I know there are people out there and there's probably people listening who know people. There is at least, from what I know, 3 actually correct ways to spell Stephanie. There is I don't want to say it's the original version, but it's the most common version, which is, Stephanie. That is the most common version. The next one is the PH is an F.
Yeah.
And then following that is with the PH still as the F, the IE is a Y. Like, those are the 3 most common that I have seen. Mine being the first one, obviously, but it's still just like, it's so funny that there was those instances like that. But yeah, no, for sure.
This is why I tell them my name is 42, man. I like, like Andy's pretty common, right? Like most people I feel like have seen Toy Story. They should know how to spell my name.
Yeah.
But like, I've gotten Adam, I've gotten Eddie, right? I've gotten Annie. Like, like people they don't even get my name right when I tell it to them. So I'm just like, yeah, my name's 42. Like, whatever.
I mean, to be fair, my last name also gets butchered. Not my married last name. My married last name has its moments where people look at it and they think it's like Heinz, like the ketchup, where it's actually Hins.
Sure.
But my regular last name, the last name I was born and raised with, Hall, Hall.
Yeah,
people still say it wrong.
Like, I'm going down the hall.
Yes, like I'm going down the hall. And it was funny because there were points where we would go pick up my brother in elementary school. I don't know why I'm telling the story, but it's just funny to tell. But we would go pick him up and we'd have to roll down the window and the person would be like, "Hey, who are you here to pick up?" So they could have the kid ready on the side to,
Yeah.
get in the car because they could get the line moving. And it'd be like Shane Hall, which is the name of my brother.
Yeah.
And they would put it, they'd put the walkie up to their mouth and then they would say Shane Paul or Shane Hull. Like, it's like, no, huh? Do I have to spell it for you? You teach it in elementary school. What the heck?
Oh, yeah.
So it was just, there were so many cringy moments with
names are so
names
weird.
are weird.
People are so weird about names.
Yep.
Anyways, that has nothing to do with this show.
No. It's just, I think it's a glimpse behind the curtain of just our friendship, Andy. So.
Yeah. So we'll definitely have to go to Wendy's and tell them how to spell our names wrong.
Yep, definitely.
Yeah.
So
I think that's it.
I really think it is. I think before we do one final closing of however we're going to do this, I definitely do want to say thank you to you, Andy, and to Josh, if he's listening, for allowing me to be a part of this show. Because before Atomic Monsoon, I had always thought about doing something like this or doing a YouTube channel or, and everything like that. But I always thought that, man, maybe I'm not, funny enough, or maybe I'm not going to have enough content to talk about, or maybe, this won't work and I'll just forget about it and I'll just die off into the ether and everything. And this has been something I have looked forward to every single week that I could, obviously, because there was points where I couldn't, but every single week it was one of the things I always look forward to doing with you guys because it was just so much fun, even if I had no idea what the hell we were talking about half the time, which there were a lot of episodes like that. Just gonna be honest, folks.
Yeah, listen. There were most of the Star Wars stuff. I've seen the movies.
Yeah,
everything else, I'm sort of like, whatever. It's fine.
Yeah. But I definitely been looking forward to doing this every single week, and it's been, especially on some weeks where it's been kind of meh or not as great. This has definitely been one of the few things that just brightens my day, makes me feel better, and especially during this time, during this pandemic, where it's been hard on everybody.
Yeah.
Doing something like this for people who really need it has been an absolute pleasure and so much fun. And I will tell you, there were some days, especially when I was, kind of working a little over the summer and even working back when we got back into the school, there were days where I told people I cannot work or I cannot be here at this time because I have to be somewhere else, because I was like, no, I'm making sure we are doing Atomic Monsoon.
Well, thank you.
And everything. Before, when Josh was still around and and everything was normal, I was able to be like, no, they can handle it without me for a week. But no, it's like this. I'm like, no, I gotta be there for Andy and everything, because we're gonna talk about, Steven Universe or Animaniacs or something like that.
Man, I didn't know that. That's cool. Thank you.
Of course.
No, and I think to go to your initial fears, right? Like, one of the things, like, man, we didn't know what the hell we were doing.
Not a clue.
We just walked in and like, well, I guess let's just talk for an hour about stuff and we'll see how it goes. We kind of figured it out, right? I don't know that those first few episodes are actually very good. They're probably not, but I think we got better as we went along.
I definitely feel like I got better as I went along. So
I mean, we certainly got more confident as we went along. So that's nice. And I think the consistency of doing it every week and making sure we did it every week. And early on there were definitely some, especially around holidays, like it's tricky to coordinate 3 people's schedules. So that's, early on we were a little inconsistent with that, but especially during the pandemic, like, no, let's make sure we're putting out something every week, even if it's, I got to call someone and talk to a buddy, making sure that there was some content every week, even if I have to call a friend and be like, listen, I don't care what you're doing, or trying to get in touch with Craig Skitz or whatever. Like, listen, I gotta do, I gotta do something. So, hey, my co-host can't be here this week. Does this work for you? So that way, like, at least we have content. So yeah. Just trying to give you guys something to listen to, something to look forward to, something to break the 24-hour news cycle. 'Cause boy, that thing is torture to listen to.
Yeah, for sure. And for you guys listening out there, even though this is the final episode, and even though we won't be able to really talk about anything else Atomic Monsoon related for a long, long while, probably not until we do that weird reunion episode at some point on one of our shows.
I mean, yeah.
we still want to hear from you guys. We still want to, we still want you to tell us your favorite moments or give us like one final goodbye or whatever it is on our social media, which is Atomic Monsoon on Facebook, Atomic Monsoon on Twitter, Atomic_Monsoon on Instagram. Email us at atomicmonsoon.com. Obviously, we still have our Redbubble store. I don't know how much longer we're going to keep it up, but we still have it up for a while. We have our YouTube channel where we have some videos up.
I mean, most of the episodes are on YouTube, so
yeah. So you can still find us on any of your podcatchers. Like, even though the show is ending, we're not disappearing into the ether. We're not like Unis Honest, like I talked about earlier, that it's just going to cancel and delete everything, like their whole goal was. Like, no, we're still going to exist in your life. You can still go back and listen to us at any time. And heck, if you ever come to con, Phoenix Fan Fusion, and you run into either me or Andy or Josh or whatever, if you recognize us, come say hi and tell us awesome things about Atomic Monsoon or our other shows that we do.
Yeah.
Because, we can't really do this without you guys sometimes. Most of the time.
Yeah.
A lot of time.
So I have paid for the domain name of Atomic Monsoon up through next fall. So at the very least, all of the content will be up through fall, like I think August of 2021. But yeah, if you guys, hey, this is the end. This is it. So yeah, if you can hit us up on all the social media and the email that Stephanie just mentioned, that'd be great. And otherwise, you can immediately come follow me at Strangeness Talk on Twitter, otherstrangeness@gmail.com. Or look for Other Strangeness on your favorite podcatcher. And otherwise, I'm updating almost every day on my personal website, psychoandy.com. That's psychoandy.com. So, at the very, very least, you will be able to find what I'm up to. And Steph, when your stuff gets up and going, of course, I will help promote that and everything. So
awesome. Sweet.
Yeah.
So, all right.
I think
here we are.
I think the best way to end this is just to play the full uncut Atomic Monsoon theme song.
I definitely agree.
Okay. All right. Well, everyone, thank you for listening. Every single person that's ever listened, even if you're not hearing this, thank you for listening. And, seeing those numbers, seeing that anyone's listening to us has made me want to keep doing it. So,
yep. And this has been Atomic Monsoon with your hosts, Psycho Andy, Jedi Stephanie, and Josh.